and welcome to Raz Reviews. Today I'm going to be reviewing Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. This is only one of the most anticipated movies of 2019. It's the third film in the new trilogy of Star Wars and it's supposed to wrap up the entirety of the Skywalker saga. So Star Wars fans have been on the edge of their seat for the entirety of this year, waiting for this film to finally drop. And it's here. This movie was directed by J.J. Abrams, who helmed the first film in the trilogy, and he's following what Rian Johnson has done with the second film, which was divisive to say the least. Now, if you follow my channel, you know that I am, in fact, a fan of The Last Jedi. A lot of people do not like this film, especially fans. There's a lot of trolling of it online, but I was a fan of it. I'm still a fan of it, and I don't care, to be honest. It's not the perfect film, but I still defend it to my own detriment and complete annihilation in comment sections. But hey, I will still stand by my opinion, which is what it is. Film is subjective. Get over it. It's not math. It's not a fact. It's just what it is. It's not an absolute that is good or bad. Only a Sith deals in absolutes. And so I was a little nervous about J.J. Abrams coming back and maybe retracting some of what was done in The Last Jedi. Having seen The Rise of Skywalker, I can safely say that that's exactly what happened. This movie definitely backtracks and retcons a lot of the stuff that happened in The Last Jedi, and it actually spends the first act into that process of rebridging the movie with The Force Awakens and sort of going back on some of the stuff that happened in The Last Jedi. So it's sort of a reset-up of the story. Overall, I liked this movie. I didn't love it. It's not as great as I would have wanted it to be. But that doesn't mean I didn't have a good time with it. I had an okay time with it. The thing about The Rise of Skywalker is that it's safe. That's the word. This movie does not really do anything that you wouldn't see coming or that you wouldn't predict. It's mostly trying to present an ending that will satisfy as many people as possible, or at least not piss off as many people as possible. Not satisfy, but not get them angry. So it's pretty neutral, which makes it not very exciting. So it's a good film, but it's not great. It's full of heart and passion and love for the Star Wars lore and story. However, it wasn't made with excitement or passion. It was mostly made with fear. And fear is the path to the dark side. And it's fear that governs it. Fear of disappointing fans. And that's not a good place to make a story from. You have to be bold and you have to take chances in order to make something exciting. Because at the end of the day, I'm a fan of risk-taking in movies and in stories. I like when we break the rules and when we subvert expectations and when we do things that you wouldn't necessarily expect, but it takes you in directions that are really cool. And I feel bad because The Last Jedi felt like it was going somewhere very, very interesting, and then we kind of U-turned and came back to where we started with The Force Awakens. I didn't feel like the story moved forward enough, and it's a real shame. The retconning really bothered me, and it really felt like J.J. Abrams was just putting back together or undoing what Rian Johnson has done. Sort of like Kylo Ren's helmet that was broken in The Last Jedi and put back together. Literally quite the metaphor for how J.J. Abrams put back together the story that he wanted, not the story that was presented in the previous film. It makes the whole thing feel like it has no creative direction, and it makes everything feel so detached and in disarray. Just put together like this in a clump, so it's kind of clunky and messy. This plays it as safe as possible, and it's extremely fan servicey as well and relies on nostalgia big time, and that makes it an okay film. I felt like the movie was just ticking boxes of what stories it needs to wrap up and what answers it needs to give and what people want to see or what it thinks it wants to see. It was like tick, 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 tick. The thing that works about it the most though is definitely the storyline between Rey and Kylo Ren. And interestingly enough, that's the dynamic that was brought from The Last Jedi and was built on in this film, and that's why I also liked it and enjoyed that aspect of it. I really like those two people, those two characters, their story, their dynamic, them playing off each other, and I really like what they represent about the Force and the balance that can be born within it. I thought it's one of the most fascinating aspects of this new trilogy, and I enjoyed their scenes a lot. Especially Kylo Ren's scenes. I'm a big Kylo Ren fan. I love Adam Driver. I love him in this. I believe him. The first half of the film didn't really work for me. It's so rushed and full of information and exposition, and it felt like a montage sort of stitched together with transitions and music. It's just, we're here, we have this thing, now we have to go here, get the thing, and then, oh, we need that thing. Who knows where that thing is? I know, it's over here. Okay, we're gonna go over here. We find the thing, it's with that guy. Who's that guy? There he is. What do you have? Oh, I gave it to that guy. It's in that place. Okay. It was just such a weird montagey explosion and barrage of exposition, and it was like another movie altogether. Obviously, this really messes with the pacing of the film, which doesn't work very well. There's too much happening. It didn't feel like it built up on what has happened before. It just felt like it's starting from scratch and just doing it really, really quickly. So I felt rushed. And I had that feeling throughout, especially when there were a lot of reveals and answers to questions, but they were so fast and we moved on so quickly. That's what I felt the film was doing. It's like, move on, yalla, yalla. Oh, look, here's the reveal. Oh, how did that happen? Move on, yalla, no time. Then you get rushed out and you're like, but how did she do this? Doesn't that mean what? Speaking of how did she do this, Rey is super OP in this movie, and it's not really explained, or is it logical how powerful she is. I mean, she does stuff with the Force that is actually cool and made up for some really cool action sequences, but still, like, how did she do that? How? I know they give hints as to who and how she was trained, but again, it's just like, she was trained like this. Let's go. So it's like the movie is actually quite enjoyable when you're in it and it's moving you along the story beats, but then suddenly when you stop and think about it, you're like, wait a second, how? Another thing that worked is obviously big epic fight sequences are there. If you're into Star Wars because you love the fight sequences and you love the CGI and the big spectacle, you'll enjoy this because there's a lot of it and it is beautiful. The movie is visually stunning. There's some really cool action sequences, some sequences on water, some sequences in space, really, really cool epic stuff that's fun to watch and really, really enjoyable. But when it comes to emotion, unfortunately, it's a little lacking. I didn't really feel the emotion as well because I don't really buy the bond between Rey, Finn, and Poe. Not like we did with Han, Luke, and Leia. It just doesn't even compare. I did buy the bond between her and Kylo Ren a lot more than with her friends. It's just not there, unfortunately, so it doesn't really work when the film relies on it for emotional punches. This movie has something for everyone. Like, everybody's gonna find something in there that they like, but nobody, I think, will find something in there that really blows their mind. And I think that's what's gonna be missing from this movie. It's just this sort of patch job, like your old grandma's bed cover that has been patched and sewn together and given to you. You look at it and you're like, this thing is kind of messy, you know? It feels good and it's nostalgic, but it's not smooth and it doesn't really mesh together with itself. And I mean, nostalgia is great, and there are so many cool references to the trilogy. We said goodbye to a lot of important stories and characters, stuff that I can't really talk about because it would be spoilerish, but generally there's a lot of nice callbacks that really satisfy you as a Star Wars fan, but it's not enough to carry the whole film. It was enough with The Force Awakens, because The Force Awakens was the first time we come back in a very long time, and you need to get that whiff of nostalgia to get you in the mood and put you back in the world. But now we've been in the world for a while and there's been a bunch of films and there's been a bunch of spin-off films and now there's Disney Plus. So like, I don't need it. I need the story to move along. I need character development. The reveals and the plot twists that happen here, some of them work, some of them not really. It was definitely fun seeing Emperor Palpatine there, chewing up scenes like he's used to. And I thought that was fun. Aspects of that worked, aspects of it didn't make a lot of sense when you think about it. And the biggest problem I had is that I can see the patches so clearly. Like, you can kind of see the man behind the curtain and the technical fixes that are being done. Like, whenever something gets retconned, it's so obvious. And whenever something gets fixed, it's also very obvious. Like, for example, like Princess Leia worked in the film sometimes, but sometimes her dialogue didn't feel right. It felt like it was reused from previous deleted scenes or scenes that were from what was originally intended. And you can kind of tell, it just doesn't look. It's like literally seeing the stitches on it. Like, her lines didn't really make sense. She'd just say this really random thing like a drunk uncle, and people are like, yeah, cool, we'll do that. And you're like, what did she just say? Why does that make sense? Look, at the end of the day, I'm very happy that she got her send-off, and it was sweet and it was nice. And I guess they did the best with what they had. They made the best out of the situation, and it worked as much as it can. I don't think this movie is bad, but I think it's one of the weakest in the franchise. And I enjoyed it while I was there, and I actually had fun with it. But afterwards, the more I thought about it, the more the patches started shining and the more unhappy I was with it. Not as satisfied as I would have liked, but then again, this film had a behemoth task ahead of it, which is to satisfy fans from different generations, answer questions from storylines that have been around for more than 20 years, and it had to not make everybody riot in the streets. I'm not upset about it. I'm not angry. I'm also not very excited. I'm just like, okay, that's how it ended. This movie is a fun ride, definitely worth watching in the theater if you're a Star Wars fan, but it's not something that's gonna really hit hard or blow your mind. It's just gonna be an ending. It's safe. It ticks all the necessary boxes. So it doesn't make for a compelling ending, but it does make for a satisfying or acceptable ending to a huge saga. So I thought it was okay, and I'm gonna give The Rise of Skywalker a 7 out of 10. So, have you seen The Rise of Skywalker? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comment section and tell me, where does it rank with the new trilogy? Because for me, it's third in the bottom. My favorite one is still The Last Jedi. You can send all your hate mail in the comment section or in the comment section of my The Last Jedi review. Feel free. And as always, like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to ask me what you'd like me to review for your next. See ya!